In today's highly competitive job market, candidates frequently find themselves confronted with a variety of obstacles they must overcome in order to get employment. An individual's credit history is a facet that is sometimes disregarded, despite the fact that a great CV and relevant expertise are both essential components. Can having poor credit make you ineligible for a job? This is the question that emerges. The purpose of this video is to shed light on how having a tarnished credit history may hinder your chances of finding a job by examining the relationship between bad credit and employment. It is crucial to have an understanding of how businesses evaluate credit histories in order to know the impact that having poor credit might have on career prospects. In the course of the recruiting process, many employers do background checks, and one of the things that is typically included in these checks is a review of the applicant's credit record. The reasoning behind this practice differs from company to employer, but the assumption that an individual's financial responsibility is indicative of their general reliability and integrity is the common thread that runs through all of them. Employer perspective. The evaluation of an applicant's credit history, according to the arguments of employers, offers vital information into the applicant's financial habits, level of responsibility, and overall decision-making abilities. For certain roles that include access to sensitive information or financial duties, employers may justify the credit check as a means of avoiding risk and preserving their business interests. This is especially true for positions that require financial accountability. However, there are many who believe that this approach can contribute to the perpetuation of systemic inequities. They say that individuals who are already struggling financially may have an even more difficult time finding a job and improving their financial condition. Industries and positions affected. The effect that having poor credit has on one's ability to obtain employment is not uniform and varies depending on the sector and the position. It is more probable that an applicant's credit history will be scrutinized for jobs in the financial industry, which are jobs in which employees manage considerable sums of money or have access to sensitive financial information. Additionally, as part of their comprehensive background investigation process, employment that require a security clearance or involve federal contracts may include credit checks as a component of the investigation. On the other hand, it is not exclusive to these particular industries. Some employers claim that a poor credit history could imply a lack of personal responsibility or integrity, which could potentially influence the hiring choice. This is true even in industries where financial responsibility may not seem to be of the utmost importance. Legal implications. Despite the fact that employers have the legal authority to perform background checks, which may include credit checks, there are legislative restrictions in place to protect individuals who are looking for work. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, is a piece of legislation that regulates the use of credit reports for employment reasons. Its objective is to ensure that applicants are informed and provide their approval prior to the inspection of their credit reports. In addition, businesses are obligated to comply with particular transparency and notification obligations in the event that they choose not to accept an applicant on the basis of their credit report. In addition, a number of states have enacted additional legislation that place limitations on the utilization of credit checks in the process of employment discrimination. For the purpose of striking a balance between the need for information that an employer has and the right of an individual to have fair and equal employment chances, several legislative safeguards have been put in place. Challenges faced by job seekers. A scenario that is already challenging is made even more stressful for people who have poor credit because the possibility of having to deal with difficulties in the workplace is a possibility. The labor market may be brutal, and the stigma that is connected with having poor credit may make the hardships that these folks are experiencing much more difficult to manage. Those who are opposed to this practice claim that it contributes to the perpetuation of a loop in which individuals who are experiencing financial difficulties have a difficult time finding a job, which hinders their capacity to improve their credit and break free from the cycle of financial instability. Furthermore, the use of credit checks in hiring decisions has been criticized for having a disproportionate impact on minority populations, which further exacerbates the inequality that already exists. As part of their advocacy for fair hiring practices, proponents urge for reforms that would lessen the reliance on applicants' credit histories and encourage a more equal method of making hiring decisions. Arguments against credit checks. An increasing number of critics are presenting persuasive reasons against the practice of using credit checks in employment decisions, which is causing the debate surrounding the use of credit checks to intensify. Among the most important arguments is the possibility that a person's credit history is not a reliable indicator of how well they perform their job or how trustworthy they are. Due to the fact that life situations such as medical problems, divorce, or the loss of a job can lead to financial troubles, using credit history as a blanket metric may subject individuals who have experienced misfortune to an unduly harsher punishment. In addition, some who are opposed to the practice claim that it contributes to the perpetuation of socioeconomic inequities. It is possible that individuals who come from marginalized areas or families with lower incomes are more likely to experience systemic hurdles that contribute to financial difficulties, which in turn makes them more likely to have a limited credit history. Because of this, relying on credit checks while making employment decisions may, unintentionally, contribute to the perpetuation of existing inequities in the labor market. Moving towards fairer hiring practices. There are certain jurisdictions that have taken measures to restrict or prohibit the use of credit checks in job choices. These jurisdictions have done this because they are aware of the potential for discrimination and the perpetuating of inequality. There are a number of states that have enacted rules that restrict the conditions under which employers are permitted to conduct credit checks. These regulations emphasize the significance of the relation of the credit check to the employment in question. In addition, there is a growing movement that is lobbying for improved transparency in the process of hiring new employees. There are many who believe that employers ought to convey the particular reasons for doing credit checks, as well as the manner in which the information would be utilized in the decision-making process about hiring. Because of this transparency, applicants are able to gain a better understanding of the relevance of their credit history to the position, and they are given the ability to address any concerns that may come up during the process of recruiting people. The subject of whether or not having poor credit can make you ineligible for a job is a more complicated and multifaceted one. There are those who believe that evaluating an individual's credit history is an essential component of the hiring process. Yet, there are also those who believe that doing so contributes to the perpetuation of inequality and may not be a reliable indicator of how well an individual will perform on the job. A growing number of people are becoming aware of the necessity of more equitable recruiting procedures as the discussion continues. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, is one example of a legal safeguard that aims to achieve a balance between the need for information that an employer has and the right of an individual to equal employment opportunities. In addition, several jurisdictions have imposed further restrictions in order to prevent the potential misuse of credit checks in the process of employing new employees. In the end, the connection between having poor credit and having a limited number of work opportunities highlights the more widespread problem of socioeconomic inequities and structural inefficiency. The hope is that as society evolves toward more awareness and advocacy for fair hiring practices, companies will adopt more sophisticated techniques to evaluating applicants. These approaches will focus on relevant qualities and abilities rather than depending on practices that could possibly be discriminatory, such as credit checks.